Dan Sodergren is a futurologist and tech expert, and he joins us now. Hello, Dan.
Good morning.
Do you see lots more services going digital and moving out of towns and villages?
Well, it's kind of part of a big thing, isn't it? This whole idea of digital transformation, which became much more rapid during COVID. You've got to remember, we had something like 10 years worth of digital transformation in a year. And I think this is the bit that kind of caught everyone off guard a little bit, because COVID meant that we had to do lots of things digitally. And of course, as we then went back to normal, so to speak, actually lots of other things didn't. Exactly the same with people returning to offices. That hasn't happened as much as people thought it would do, or certainly in the past. In the past, pretty much everyone was in offices if you were an office worker, so to speak. Now people, of course, are working remotely. And of course, this is allowed because of digitization. This is allowed because of things like Zoom, etc. So this next trend that we're then seeing, which we'll be seeing more and more in the future, is decentralization of things. The kind of not using that centralized business district as much. And we've got to remember, society's always changed. This is just part of life.
Yeah, it is. For some people, it's complicated. I mean, and dare I say, there are aspects, not all, but there are aspects of certain generations who perhaps for them this is all a bit too much. But is it time that everyone embrace the digital world? If someone hasn't got smart technology yet, is it their fault that they're not getting on board? Do we need to provide maybe hubs where people can go and access them in a community kind of based way, right? Because if the post office is gone, how else are these people going to get this stuff?
Well, I mean, can you not remember that it was a long time ago banks were closing and they said, oh, it's okay because the post offices won't close. And so people were saying that. You've got to remember, this, I'm not here to bash the present government, but it's in their state, and it's in the same tenure as the present government, who's not exactly known for putting money into infrastructures and into community things. So that could be part of it. Let's not be too silly about it. It's potentially a political thing. It is a political thing because actually they could put more money into these things. They should put more money into helping people and to bridge that digital divide. But that's a political decision. It's not really a financial one. Yes, you could have hubs where people could come and use technology. You could even do crazy things like you could nationalise where getting onto the internet, which wouldn't be a bad call. You could also do even crazier things like give people smartphones if they didn't have one, because then they would be part of this thing. Because smartphones don't cost as much. In fact, yes. I'm showing my age there by even saying the word smartphone. They're just called phones, I think. my daughter would just laugh at me and still do phones. So, but again, if your grandma isn't online and doesn't use a smartphone to kind of access these things, yeah, we should help. We should help the next generation do it. Absolutely, we should help the older generations do it. It's just whether the government would pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they don't, and if these things aren't in place, there will be certain people for whom, I can look at, my dad's in his 90s. There's not a chance. My mother-in-law's in her 70s and she's brilliant. She's better at me than me at tech. So this is not a one-size-fits-all here. But there will be certain people for whom this is just another world. It's just never going to happen. And I think we have to respect that to a degree, don't we?
No, I think exactly. I work in digital, so I like it, and I work in tech, but I completely understand that not everybody does. But, it's a little bit like saying not everybody understood electricity when it first came around, but we kind of made sure that everyone had electricity because it was a good thing to have. Yeah, it's the exact same with running water. Again, same principle. I might not understand the pipes that get the water to my house, but actually it's quite good that I could have a bath, and we became cleaner and we didn't die as much. So again, we're kind of going back to that old classic thing, which is infrastructure. The more infrastructure and education you put in place, the more money you put into community projects, the better society becomes. And really, technology is just another version of that. This is not even talking about artificial intelligence. This is just talking about people getting online. And we need more and more people to be online. Sadly, because if all these places are disappearing, and they could be for economical reasons, I understand they might not be viable. But I also think we should be putting money into those as well, because we can't have it completely die, because our villages and the rest will die too.
Do you know, I totally agree with you. We have to get on board with tech, but it's not just a building a post office, is it? And and also I'm wondering about this being a step towards a cashless society. I mentioned earlier that I last summer went to a festival where they had a problem with the internet. So therefore, all of the food stalls, I couldn't buy anything because I'd only got my card with me. So there was no way I was tapped. So I was starving. So this time I went to a festival this weekend and I took a load of cash with me because I don't usually carry a lot of cash. I haven't got a lot of cash anyway. And no one would accept my money. And I'm like, hang
Wow.
on a minute, so I wanted to buy a coffee. Look at me buying a coffee at a festival. I'm so 50 now, really. But I wanted to get some food. I went to get one of these nice shawarma things. Fortunately, I got my card. And then similar thing in a shop, which I didn't think was legal, that a shop can refuse legal tender. So it's happened to me twice over the weekend that I couldn't use cash. What's going on?
Wow. Oh, well, to be fair, I'm shocked by that one because there is a huge amount of cash in society. But I would have thought that was illegal. But you weren't
I thought
allowed
so
to
too.
accept money.
Yeah.
Of course.
But nobody wanted
right
it.
Then it doesn't make any difference. You can't take them to court while you're hungry. You've got other things to think about.
Yeah.
So it's no way. I mean, the cashless society thing. I think we're a long way off that. I think that's always a bit of a fear for people, and I think we shouldn't be pushing towards that agenda. But I also can understand from a coronavirus and those other points of view, we suddenly realised that actually handling money was actually was a bit problematical. So actually, wouldn't it be better that we didn't? But again, same thing. The digital divide is a political moment. You have to invest in stuff so we don't have people, who are literally stranded without cash or stranded without the education to make sure their lives can be better. So I think it's a big thing. A cashless society, I think we're a good 5 or 10 years off. Don't worry about that one too much, but definitely start thinking, shouldn't the government be putting more money into public projects? The answer is most probably yes.
Yeah, I think so too. You talk a lot of sense, Dan. I know I liked you. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to talk.